Get ready, Path of Exile fans. We got a sneak peek at Path of Exile 2 from the Gamescom demo, and it's looking awesome. One of the developers, Jonathan, walked us through some of the big changes coming to the game, especially for the new Mercenary class. From what we saw, Path of Exile 2 is going to be a lot more challenging, but also more rewarding if you learn how to play it well. You'll need to use more skills, think about your positioning, and choose your gear carefully to survive. Sounds exciting, right? Let's dive into the details. One of the coolest things shown off at Gamescom was the new Mercenary class. This guy is all about crossbows, but these aren't your grandma's crossbows. They feel more like guns from a shooter game. You load ammo beforehand, and you can quickly switch between different types of ammo, like explosive grenades or rapid-fire bolts. It looks super smooth and satisfying to use. Speaking of grenades, they're a good example of how Path of Exile 2 is changing things up. They're not meant to be your main attack, but they're super powerful when used in the right situation, like against a big group of enemies. The developers want you to use lots of different skills, not just spam one button over and over. Each skill has a special purpose, and you'll need to be smart about when and how you use them. And it's not just crossbows that feel different. The developers have said that they want every weapon type in Path of Exile 2 to feel unique and fun to use. So, whether you prefer swinging a sword, casting spells, or summoning minions, there's going to be a playstyle that's perfect for you. One of the biggest changes coming to Path of Exile 2 is how the developers want you to use your skills. In the past, you could get away with just spamming one really powerful attack. But in Path of Exile 2, you'll be rewarded for using lots of different skills and adapting to different situations. Jonathan, the developer from the Gamescom demo, talked about how they want to make skill switching more important. You can still play simply if you want, but you won't be as effective. For example, even popular lazy builds like Righteous Fire, where you basically just stand still and let your aura do the work, will need to change to be as strong in Path of Exile 2. This might sound scary, but it's actually a good thing. It means that there will be more build variety and more ways to play the game. You'll have to get creative and experiment with different skills to find what works best for you. And when you pull off a cool combo or outsmart a tough enemy, it'll feel even more satisfying. Get ready to die, Exile, because Path of Exile 2 is going to be a lot more challenging than its predecessor. The developers want you to feel like you're always on the edge of your seat, making every decision count. One of the big changes that contributes to this increased difficulty is the dodge roll. In Path of Exile 1, you could basically dodge through enemies, making it easy to escape sticky situations. But in Path of Exile 2, the dodge roll has been adjusted so you can't just phase through monsters anymore. This means you'll need to be more careful about your positioning and use your movement skills strategically. Don't worry though, there are still other ways to escape, like using a teleport skill. Players who are used to the old Path of Exile might get wrecked at first because they're used to playing a certain way. Those old habits will need to change. You can't just rush into a pack of monsters and expect to survive. You'll need to think about your defenses, use your skills wisely, and maybe even run away sometimes. Of course, good gear will always help you survive in Path of Exile. But even with the best gear in the game, you'll still need to be skillful to make it through the toughest challenges. Path of Exile 2 is all about rewarding players who master the game's mechanics and learn how to outsmart their enemies. Path of Exile 2 isn't just about making things harder, it's also about adding cool new stuff. The Gamescom demo showed off a bunch of new skills and mechanics that look awesome. We got a glimpse of some new skills like Ritual, Spinning Inferno, and Hammer of the Gods. These skills all look visually impressive and have unique effects that will shake up combat. There's also a new support gem called Stomping Ground that creates shockwaves whenever you use a movement skill. Imagine leaping into a pack of monsters and creating a massive explosion. The demo also showed off some tricky new mechanics. For example, in one area, the sun is literally deadly. If you stand in the sunlight for too long, you'll start taking damage. This forces you to think about your positioning and use the environment to your advantage. You might need to duck behind cover or use a movement skill to quickly get out of the sun's rays. And let's not forget about the boss battles. Jonathan, the developer, said that they've put a lot of effort into making the bosses in Path of Exile 2 more challenging and engaging. He even compared them to bosses from Dark Souls, which are known for their difficulty and intricate mechanics. Even the early bosses in Path of Exile 2 feel like tough endgame fights, requiring you to learn their attack patterns and react quickly to survive. Path of Exile 2 is making some big changes to the gem system, and it's all about giving you more control over your character's build. In Path of Exile 1, you leveled up your gems by gaining experience, but in Path of Exile 2, you'll level up your gems by using special items called uncut gems. This means you get to choose which skills you want to level up, instead of just leveling up whichever gems you happen to be using at the time. It's kind of like the skill tree in Diablo 2, where you get to pick and choose which skills you want to invest in. And speaking of skill trees, your character's attributes, strength, dexterity, and intelligence, are even more important in Path of Exile 2. The stronger your character is in a certain attribute, the more powerful support gems you can use. Support gems are like add-ons for your skills, making them stronger or giving them new effects. So if you want to use the most powerful support gems, you'll need to invest in your attributes. Don't worry if you're new to Path of Exile though. The developers have added a system that recommends good support gems for your skills. This will help you get started and learn how to build your character effectively. From what we've seen so far, Path of Exile 2 is shaping up to be an amazing game. It's going to be more challenging, but also more rewarding. You'll need to use more skills, think about your positioning, and choose your gear carefully to survive. But with all the new content, skills, and mechanics, it's going to be a blast. Early access launches on November 15th, and we can't wait to see what other cool stuff Grinding Gear Games has in store for us. What are you most excited about in Path of Exile 2? Let us know in the comments. As usual, this is Lucy, signing off.